Welcome to the EdjSports NFL Betting Preview. I'm your host, Ian O'Connor, Senior Data Analyst here at EdjSports, and I'll be previewing the Week 6 Thursday Night Football game between the Buccaneers and Eagles, along with a handful of other games from the weekend and a couple moneyline value picks. But before I dive right into the previews, as always, just wanted to remind you that you can catch me every Thursday throughout the NFL season, previewing the upcoming weekend's action, as well as on Monday morning where our VP of Data Science, Scott Brown, will join me to analyze the previous weekend's action and to preview that day's Monday Night Football game. Also, be sure to check out our all-new site and experience at EdjSports.com. That is EdjSports.com. And don't forget to download our new app, which is available for both iOS and Android. There you can get pregame betting insights for every NFL game this season, along with our fair value picks for each game, and the ability to track your bets to see the probability of each bet hitting. Without further ado, we'll jump right into the Thursday Night Football game tonight between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Tom Brady faces the last franchise to beat him in the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles. He has played them once since then in 2019, I believe. The Patriots got a 7-point victory. And the Buccaneers are coming off a blowout victory over Miami. Philadelphia won on a late touchdown last week versus Carolina for their first win since Week 1. Now, the Bucs are still missing Gronk, but they have the three-headed monster of Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. Now, the latter two of those each scored 2 touchdowns last week, and all 3 of those guys are ranked top 25 among wide receivers in Football Outsiders' DYAR statistic. Now, Tampa Bay comes into this one 4th in overall DVOA. Philadelphia is 16th. Tampa Bay is the number 2 offense. They've got the 3rd best passing offense with Brady, the number 1 quarterback, and those 3 top 25 wide receivers I mentioned. And they're 9th in rushing, so top 10 in both facets of the offensive game. Versus a Philadelphia defense that's been decent. They're 10th against the pass, but only 23rd against the run. So don't be surprised if Leonard Fournette and or Ronald Jones get some run in this one. Looking on the other side at the Philadelphia offense, they're 19th overall, only 21st in passing, but 4th in rushing. Now that Tampa Bay defense they're going up against is only 18th against the pass, and they are a little bit banged up. But they're 3rd against the rush, so could be a tough game here. You got Philadelphia, something they struggle against going against Tampa Bay, and something they struggle with. But Philadelphia's strength, they're going to be going against Tampa Bay's strength as well. So we've got a disparity overall in those DVOA rankings. Again, Tampa Bay's 4th overall, Philadelphia 16th. Both still top half of the league. But Tampa Bay does have the edge in rush offense versus that Philadelphia rush defense. Looking at the spread for this game, the market sits at Tampa Bay -7. Our edge fair value is Tampa Bay -5. So just a couple points of value there in Philadelphia. 54% chance for the Eagles to cover +7, according to our Edge Football simulation model, and 58.2% chance to push or cover +7. So not as strong as some of the other games that we've seen in the past, but still some slight edge there for Philadelphia to cover in a game that I mentioned that's fairly even for the most part with both these teams. Now, Philadelphia we do have as a 34% chance to win straight up versus a market implied 29%. Not a huge spread there, again, like we've seen in the past on some of these games, but there is a little bit of edge on Philadelphia overall as well. You're getting them at about a 29% price in the market versus 34% by our model. Looking at the total, the market is at 51.5 points. Our edge fair value is at 55, which is tied for our highest of Week 6. The most common outcome is 57 points. We got a handful coming out in those upper 50s, even lower 60s in this. But we're looking at 55 points as our edge fair value, giving this game 61.3% chance to exceed that 51.5 market value, meaning to hit 52 points or more. No surprise on this one, though. Straight up, 89% of the bets and 84% of the money are on Tampa Bay. Again, our numbers have it about a 66, so almost 2/3 of the time Tampa Bay wins this. The market is pretty much all over Tampa Bay in this one. So just to recap real quick, there is a very slight value on the spread to cover. More value on the over, but Philadelphia to push or cover is 58.2% at +7 and 61.3% chance for this game to reach or exceed 52 points. Now jumping into another game, maybe not the most exciting game this season, but arguably the greatest rivalry in the NFL, and that's Green Bay and Chicago playing each other in Chicago this weekend. So it's their first meeting of 2021. It's Justin Fields' first game against Green Bay. Green Bay comes into this game only 15th in DVOA despite their only loss, coming all the way back in Week 1 on an ugly loss, one of the worst games in a long time in the NFL. Still kind of holding them down a little bit, but they haven't been as good as they've looked, I guess, with that 4-1 record. Chicago comes in at 22nd. They have not been much better. That's really no surprise there. Green Bay's got the number 10 offense coming into this in DVOA. They're 10th in passing, 15th in rushing, a step down from what they did last year. Facing Chicago, who's 4th against the pass and 11th against the rush. So one of the toughest tests the Green Bay offense has faced on this young season, if not the toughest. Now, Chicago, they're 2nd worst in offense, 31st overall, only 31st in passing, 12th in rushing. They are missing David Montgomery, but they do have a couple capable running backs there. We've seen that running back, as you know, in the analytics world, people like to beat on running backs. They're not as valuable as people think. But still, missing Montgomery, he's a good running back, could have an effect on them. But that Green Bay defense is only 17th against the pass, and they've got a banged-up secondary. Jair Alexander is still out, could miss the rest of the season. Kevin King is banged up, for what it's worth, whatever you may think about him. A little bit banged up. They got some young guys, but Eric Stokes has really stepped up and played really well. But still, only 17th so far this season against the pass. Only 29th against the rush. So could be a game for Chicago to really pound it on the ground. Could also be a game for Justin Fields to showcase his abilities, though he hasn't played so well so far. He's 2nd worst among qualifying quarterbacks. But with that pass defense that's below average and banged up, as I've mentioned a couple times, could be a game for him to connect with Allen Robinson. Darnell Mooney has actually even been a little bit better this year so far. So heading into some of the numbers on this in the market, looking at the spread, the market has got Green Bay at 4.5. Our fair value has Green Bay at only -3, so not too far off. Again, this is kind of a slight value, not as much as we typically see in some of these games. With Chicago with 56.7% chance to cover, plus 4.5 with that stellar defense. Looking at the total, the market's pretty low on this one at 44. Our edge fair value sits at 49. So there's a 69.5% chance to reach 44 points. So over 2/3 of simulations, nearly 70% of the time, this game hits 44 points or more. Now, all of Green Bay's games since that week 1 blowout loss have reached 44 points. Even that one was at 41. Only one of Chicago's games has reached 44 points. So the Green Bay offense is putting up points. The defense hasn't been great, though. Only 20th. Chicago's been the opposite. Like I said, great defense. 2nd worst offense, but they could put up some points against that banged-up Green Bay defense. So we like this one to go over the 44, hit the 44-point market total almost 70% of the time. No surprise, like the last one, 72% of the bets and 86% of the money's on Green Bay. One thing to note, though, Green Bay we have at 58% chance to win straight up versus a market-implied 69%, so about 11% difference there. So this could be a little bit of a value. Again, I wouldn't be willing to take Chicago to win straight up on this one, even though our market or our simulation, like Chicago a little bit more, still thinks Green Bay wins almost 60% of the time. I agree with that, with the market pretty heavily on Green Bay. So just to recap, Chicago at 56.7% chance to cover plus 4.5, and 69.5% chance for this game to go over or hit 44 points or exceed 44 points. Next, I want to jump into one of 2 games that we have that could be the game of the week. Pre-game, these are both great games, along with Arizona and Cleveland, which I will get to in just a minute. The Chargers coming off that thrilling shootout victory versus Cleveland last week. That Cleveland defense, just kind of a aside on this one, what's funny to see where Austin Eckler wasn't even trying to score. The Chargers trying to run down the clock for a last-second field goal. That defense just pulling them into the end zone so they could get that ball back. But just an awesome game all around there. High scoring. I think final was 47-42. So a lot of points in that one. Baltimore got an amazing performance from Lamar Jackson on Monday Night Football to beat Indianapolis in overtime, coming from 19 points down in the 3rd quarter to win that one. So just another unbelievable game from Lamar Jackson, which we've kind of become accustomed to seeing this season and in the past few seasons since he became the starter there. Now the Chargers only 11th in DVOA, still good, but number 7 offense this season. Baltimore is 8th in DVOA and 9th in offense. Both defenses below average so far. So we'll get to that total in a minute, but want to start off looking at the spread here. The market has Baltimore at -3. We actually have Baltimore at -5 as our fair value spread. So we're a little bit heavier on Baltimore here. Still Baltimore only 52.1% chance to cover -3, but 60.2% chance to push or cover -3. So that Baltimore -3 number to win by a field goal is our most common outcome here. So that's the reason you see such a big spread, looking at the chance to cover versus the chance to push or cover being almost not, or right at just under 8% greater chance to push or cover there. In the total, there's not much value in this one, but as I mentioned, with both of these defenses being below average, two top 10 offenses, we agree there's going to be some scoring. The market sits at 51.5 points for the total, which is tied for the third highest in Week 6. Our edge fair value is 51, also tied for our third highest in Week 6. So just a pretty much spot on the market there. Like I said, not much value. We agree with the market here. Only 51.6% chance to exceed that 51.5 points. But that's a pretty fair total looking at this pregame. Now, 93, kind of surprising here. I told you that we're a little bit heavier on Baltimore. The market is at 93% of the bets, but only 59% of the money on the Los Angeles Chargers. So the market is heavy on the Chargers in terms of quantity of bets, but as far as the dollar amount out there, only 59%. But still, LAC, those Chargers are favored in this one in the market. This one was tough. I've looked at it, going back and forth. Would love, keep wanting to pick the Chargers here, but man, that Baltimore team sitting at 4-1 has overcome, a couple games where they probably should have or should have lost. So this one's tough. I don't know. If I had to pick, I might go with the market on this, the Chargers, but pretty close. And that market is sitting on the Chargers, but not as much of the money on the Chargers there. So just to recap briefly, Baltimore said they're favorites to push or cover -3 at 60.2% to win by a field goal or more. Only 51.6% chance to exceed the 51.5 point market total. So a pretty fair number there at 51.5 points. Moving on to that other game I mentioned, could be game of the week. Both of these awesome games. Another great one here Cleveland's involved in. Arizona was in that game of the week a couple weeks ago against the Rams where they blew them out. But this week, both teams are top 6 in DVOA. Arizona sits 3rd. Cleveland is 6th. Top 8 offenses with Arizona 8th. Cleveland 6th. And both top 12 defenses with that Arizona defense surprising everyone so far at 4th overall and Cleveland at 12th. So Arizona is still the only team top 10 in both offense and defense. But this one, the spread is on Cleveland. Market sits at -3 right now. It's been there all week. Hasn't really moved much from what I've seen. The fair value here at Edge is Cleveland -2. So there is some slight value there. On Arizona, we've got a little bit more value or more stock in Arizona. But the Cardinals are 48.1% chance to cover +3. It's about 5% greater than Cleveland. And they've got 56.3% chance to push or cover. So again, when you've got those spreads sitting at 3 points a field goal, those are typically our most common outcomes looking at pregame, a field goal victory on either side. So Arizona still under 50% chance to cover that, but a 5% greater chance in Cleveland just to cover the +3. So to lose by 2 or less or win, but 56.3% chance to push or cover that +3. Looking at the total, the market is a little bit higher on this one at 50 points. Our edge fair value is only at 44. So I mentioned 2 great offenses, but also 2 really good defenses. So only 35.4% chance to reach 50 points in our simulation. That's just over 1/3 of simulation. So small chance, 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 times this game reaches that 50-point mark in this game. So 77% of the bets are on Cleveland, but 53% of the money is on Arizona. So a lot of those high dollar amount bets are coming in on Arizona. Looking at the chance to win, Cleveland is at 57% chance to win in our model versus a market implied 62%. So again, we see a little bit more value with Arizona. I'm inclined to go against my heart as a Browns fan in this one and take Arizona to win. They've just looked so good with that team that with Kyler Murray has looked awesome. So many playmakers. That defense has just been very good. So again, we see a little bit of value here with Cleveland, 5% less chance to win than what the market has, so some value there in Arizona. So recapping this one, Arizona, 56.3% chance to push or cover +3. In this game, only 35.4% chance to reach the 50-point market total. So heading into our money line values, if you've been with us before, you're familiar with this. If this is your first time, every week we like to highlight at least one money line value pick. So this is a pick where, our numbers have a team, as I mentioned a minute ago, Cleveland, less chance to win, so some value on Arizona with a greater chance to win the market, where you find prices where teams are priced lower in the market based on what we think their actual chances are of winning. Sometimes these are still unlikely events where we've got teams that are maybe 40-45% chance to win, but the market has them at 25 or 30. So we went cold last week after a pretty good stretch to start the season here. Seattle lost. We had them as our money line value picked. We did have the Wilson injury, so who knows what could have happened there. Cleveland lost in a nail-biter. Houston was up by 13, ended up losing. Jacksonville was the one that really wasn't even close. So some close ones last week, but went cold overall. So this week we've got a couple picks, one of which was mentioned earlier in the show. Start with that one, Arizona and Cleveland. Just to reiterate, the market has Cleveland. It's around 62% chance to win. Our model has Cleveland at only 57%. So we still think Cleveland should win, but some value in Arizona. So, as I mentioned, Kyler Murray just seems to be able to make things happen out of nowhere. Got so many weapons on offense. That defense has been so good. So our model likes them a little bit more on the road in Cleveland. And then the second one is a team we've had a couple times, or we've had once on our money line value, Detroit against Cincinnati. The market's sitting at only 39%. Our Edge football simulation model has them at 49% chance to win. So this is our closest game of the week. Detroit has come so close to winning multiple times. At week 1, they were down huge. They looked left for dead. Had a big comeback, had a chance to at least tie the game, send it into overtime. If they could have gotten a touchdown and 2-point conversion, I think they were all the way down to the San Francisco 20 in that one, very late in the game. Then they had the Justin Tucker game, which was our value pick that week. And if it wasn't for a missed delay of game, that one could have been the victory, their first victory of the season. And then last week, they took the lead with a 2-point conversion with under a minute to go, I believe, before Minnesota hit a game-winning field goal. So this could be the week they finally get that first W. We've got them just shy of 50% chance to win at 49% compared to a market-implied 39%. So that'll wrap up our Week 6 NFL preview. Just a quick recap here for all of you keeping track at home. Tonight's Thursday night football game, the Philadelphia Eagles, 58.2% chance to push or cover +7, and 61.3% chance for that game to exceed 51.5 points. Looking at Green Bay at Chicago, the Bears, 56.7% chance to cover +4.5, and that game at 69.5% chance to reach 44 points. Los Angeles Chargers at Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is our favorite to push or cover -3 at 60.2%. And that game only 51.6% chance to exceed 51.5 points. So that one is very close. Then the Arizona Cardinals at the Cleveland Browns. Arizona 56.3% chance to push or cover +3 and only 35.4% chance to reach 50 points. Then those moneyline values I just went over. Detroit 49% chance to win versus a market implied 39% against Cincinnati. And Cleveland only 57% chance to win versus a market implied 62%. So some value in Arizona there to win and extend their unbeaten streak as the NFL's last undefeated team. So that'll do it for this week's betting preview. Be sure to check out all of our pregame betting insights for Week 6 and beyond on EdjSports.com and our EdjSports app. And don't forget to come back every Monday to hear our weekend recaps, analyze the weekend's action, and to get our Monday Night Football betting preview. Thanks for listening and enjoy the Week 6 action.